Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here, Friday the 29th of October 2021, back on the Fury SS. So in the video, actually only a couple of days or so ago, we got it running again, but we thought that it was slow to pick up on one of the cylinders, and at the time I thought it might be one slide is a bit slower to rise than the other. Wasn't quite sure which cylinder it was, but now back onto this just to see if we can tune up the carbs a bit and get to the bottom of that problem. Now the first thing that you can do is to check that the slides are rising and hitting the throttle stop screw, which is that screw there on these Mark 1 Amels, is just to place your finger gently on it while you raise and then just let the throttle go and see if the slide is tapping against the screw. You can just feel it when the slide hits. And I've done that, and the answer is, I think, yes on both sides. I'm pretty sure they're both rising at the same time. I did obviously check all this before I buttoned all this lot up, and it's one simple test to do with everything in situ, because as you can see the carbs are very well hidden on this bike, in between frame tubes, underneath the tank, etc. So they're quite difficult to get at. But that's a simple test that I've already done, and I'm pretty sure the slides are rising and falling together in both carbs. So I was mulling over this a bit more, and I was wondering if one of the pilot jets is blocked, because that's a common problem with these carbs. The pilot jet itself is cast in to the body, and it's behind the pilot screw here, but it's the other side of the inlet tract on the far side, and it's cast in. But there is a way of, I mean, in the old days what we used to do was drill the carb from the other side and get at the jet from that side, and then bung the hole up once you cleared the jet with araldite or something like that. But there is a better way now, in that there are very small drill bits available, quite long, where you can take this pilot screw out and then gently insert the small drill bit, which is the same diameter as the pilot jet hole itself, and just gently turn it clockwise. And the idea of that is to, any gunge that's in the jet is, with the drill bit, is drawn out this way and not back into the cavity the other side of the jet, where it might be actually drawn into the jet itself again. And then the other technique is to use a cocktail stick, a wooden cocktail stick, but obviously that does push any gunge through the other side, which you don't really want, but it will clear the jet. And also it will clear the jet without damaging the jet, or potentially making the jet larger. So those are the two techniques. Now, I was just setting myself up to undertake that, but you're listening to somebody who must have been a bit thick when he was putting these carbs on, because in looking at the pilot screws, etc., I've realised that they were both screwed all the way in. So both cylinders were going to be struggling getting anything at all through the pilot jet for tick over. So I've now unscrewed these 1 1/4 turns, which is usually the place you start with these carbs, and we'll give her a fire up now, and we'll see if that's made any difference. I'm sure it has. So yeah, hands up, being a bit thick at this end. I can't believe I didn't check that when I actually installed the carbs. I did check the carbs were all clean inside because they have been lying around for some time, but they've never been used. They're brand new. So Thicko here just forgot to set the pilot screws and didn't check them before we even started up, which is crazy. But anyway, sometimes that happens. So let's give it a fire up now and see if it's going. Okay, the other thing is that I've checked the oil tank. There's plenty of oil in it. It hasn't sumped at all, so that's good news too. So let's give her another go. Okay, fuel on. I know she's got fuel. I'll open both taps. We'll try and start it, obviously on the electric start, but with full choke and no tickle, and see if we get anything. Right, ignition on. Give her a whirl. Right, just checking she's in neutral, which she is. Okay, fuel off. That was better. Didn't require any tickling to start it up, but it is still a bit slow picking up, and it's definitely the right hand cylinder. No, it's not. Yes, it is. I beg your pardon. Left hand cylinder, top one. Top pipe left. I mean, it might be that the slide is a bit slow on take up. So I think what I'll do to be sure about the slide rising at the same time on the left as it is on the right is we can, as I said in the last video, we can check that by going into the air filter from the top underneath the seat into the plenum chamber, and then getting access to the back of the carbs through the plenum chamber, because it's quite a big plenum chamber, so you can get your hand in. So let's do that, because that should be quite a simple test next. But anyway, yeah, quite pleased with that. I think it's certainly now showing a bit more of a propensity to tick over once we've set the throttle stop screws up properly, because they're obviously a bit low at the moment, which is why it's dying quite readily when I take the throttle off. We need to raise the slides anyway, but we'll do that once we've checked that both slides are rising and falling at the same time. So let's do that now. Right, here we are under the seat then. So just behind the tank here, there's the plate over the top of the air filter. Then underneath the air filter is another plate on top of the plenum chamber, so we're just going to take those off. Just one nut on that stud, and we should be able to get in the plenum chamber then. So let me just remove those and I'll bring you back. Right, there we are, top plate off. There's the air filter, not much light here is there? There's the filter, and that's sat on a plate on top of the plenum chamber. and the air filter's stuck to the bottom plate, which is why I'm having a bit of trouble. Let me just separate those two and I'll bring you back and I'll show you them on the bench. There you go, a bit fiddly to get out, but got it out okay. The filter's actually stuck itself to the bottom plate, but that's okay. And these little indentations are pressed in, so it locates properly on the top rim of the plenum chamber, which we can now see there. There's the rim going round there, and there's the two inlets there for each carb. Let's just get a bit of light. Oh, we're done with the torch. One moment, I'll bring you back. There we go, that's better. So anyway, that's quite clean in there. You can see on the right hand side there's a brass nut there. That's holding the Zener diode on the other side of it, because the plenum chamber acts as the heatsink for the Zener diode. And then at the bottom there you can see there's the inlet into the plenum chamber of a rubber tube, which is the engine breather. Right, I'll get a finger in there if I can, or some implement anyway, and see if I can feel the slides. Right, I did manage to get fingers in there quite easily, just one finger in to feel the slide, and the slides are both rising at the same time, which is good news, but I can feel that the right hand air slide is a little higher than the left hand air slide. So that means we will need to take the tank off to adjust cables at some point, but it does mean now that we can probably have a bit of a play to see if we can get the engine ticking over. So let's do that. So I'm going to raise the throttle stop screw on the right hand, on both cylinders, but I'll raise it more on the left hand cylinder than on the right hand cylinder, and we'll see if we can try and get it to tick over. I have noticed that we do have a bit of an oil leak, and that is awkwardly on this join here from the cam chain tunnel. When I put this together I noticed that didn't really seem to be seating properly, but there is a rubber O-ring in there, but it's definitely weeping oil from there, but we can get at it from the inside, so I might be able to get some sort of sealer in there to try and stem that flow, because it's not under pressure. But the good news is that means, again, we're getting a decent amount of oil up to the top end, and it does sound okay. Right, let's see if we can get a bit of a tick over going. Right, just thought I'd refer to the handbook just for a couple of considerations with respect to carb settings, and particularly the sort of default setting for the pilot jet, the pilot screw. First thing to mention is with respect to the pilot screw on a Mark 1 concentric, this is an air screw, so this regulates the amount of air that mixes with the fuel that's coming through the fixed pilot jet. So I had this set to 1 1/4 turns out. So obviously the further out you unscrew it, the more air is mixed with that pilot mixture, but the pilot jet, I suppose, the fuel that's going through that pilot jet nozzle. So therefore it leans it out as you unscrew the screw. Now, referring actually back to the handbook, it actually says 3/4 of a turn. So therefore, I had it too lean on the pilot, which makes a lot of sense. The reason I put it out 1 1/4 turns is because on a lot of older parallel twins, then that was the sort of default setting, I seem to remember. And on the triples as well, it's about right, I think, what I use on the Rocket 3, but obviously it needs to be a bit richer on on the Fury. So I've amended that. So that's good. So that should make a difference. Now the other consideration is I think we need to address the oil leak if we can, because it is quite bad coming from between the head and the barrel in the cam chain tunnel. Now I've taken the cam box cover off just to show you that there, down here, there's one. There are 2 screws, one on either side, that clamp down this side of the head slightly here, really, just to try and seal that a bit. They don't play a part in obviously locking down the head against the cylinders. But those screws aren't shown in the parts book, but the holes are there in the barrels. So I'm not sure whether they're supposed to be screws or whether they're supposed to be a bolt. We don't want to torque them down too much and strip the thread. But at the moment I've just got Loctited Phillips screws in there, and obviously with the position and with the screwdriver you can't really get too much torque. So what I'm thinking of doing is, luckily with this bike it's easy, get the crank in a certain position, and you can slacken off the cam chain, remove the cam chain and the tensioner, and we'll be able to get at those 2 screws. And I might swap them out for I think they're either UNC or UNF, I can't remember which. They're most likely, I'd have thought, UNC, as they're screwing into Ali. Swap them out for some UNC bolts where I can at least try and get a bit more torque on there and try and seal that up. And at the same time as well, it'll give us access to that join from the inside, so that I can try and put a bit of sealer maybe into the crack. I'll need to clean it off well first, but that's my thought process at the moment. So I'll take a bit of time and think about that first before we go any further with any running tests. But certainly very pleased with the way that it's starting up at the moment. Obviously the touchwood, the starter motor and Sprag clutch are working very well. So anyway, we're slowly getting there, ironing things out. And also, with respect to the carb tuning, going back to that, I am raising the slides with the throttle stop screws to get it to tick over. So I will need to lift the tank so I can adjust the play in the cables to make sure the slides rise at the same time. So we have got that to think about as well. But first of all, let's have a think about either trying to torque those screws down a bit more, but I can't get any sort of impact in there, and I wouldn't want to do that really, but swap them out maybe for bolts or set screws. Okay, so after a bit more running and tuning, then as you heard, we've got it beginning to tick over. That was idling at about 1,000 revs, not too bad. So a bit more tuning to do yet, but on checking where I've set the carbs to now in fettling it a little, then the pilot screws, the pilot air screws, are out about 1 1/4 turns, which is what I thought originally, not 3/4 of a turn as in the handbook. But anyway, we're beginning to make progress. It is still leaking oil. I'm hoping it's cam chain tunnel join here, but I've got an awful feeling that it's not, because I think oil was coming out just one fin down. I'm hoping that it's not a porous casting, which was always a thought when we were machining this lot, and we thought that I think Bob thought that one or two of the castings might have been scrapped, which is why they weren't which is why they didn't finish machining them. But well, that can be fixed. But I think what I'm going to have to do is going through the cam tunnel, the cam cover, get the crank in the right position, and then I can remove the chain, and without disturbing the cams, and then that'll give me much better access to the inside of that join all the way around. And we'll try and seal it with something, clean it and sealing with something. I'm going to try and do that at some point without disturbing the head. That's what I'm trying to avoid, obviously. So there is that still to do, and obviously we've got the gearbox, the selection indexing, which I think is slightly wrong as well, probably only out by a tooth or so. So we've got that to do. But anyway, progress. Obviously, all the oil coming out of the cam chain tunnel does mean there's a tunnel going up to the head, so that's great news. And also, it had some oil, but not too much, and it did return all that to the tank, so it's scavenging properly as well. So we've done some good testing, but I'm not going to do anything more on this now, other than actually drain all the oils, because we're prepping the pair of them, those two, as chosen by the poll against those who participated. These two are going to the NEC Classic Motor Show in about a week's time. So today's November the 4th now, finishing this video off. Next Wednesday/Thursday is set up at the show, and the show runs from Friday the 12th to Sunday the 14th of November at the NEC in Birmingham, and these two bikes will be on the BSA Owners Club stand, as I'm going to support the club for this one. So hopefully I'll meet some of you if you're intending to go. It's a big show, and there's lots of cars there primarily, but more and more classic bikes, and the BSA Owners Club have had certainly a stand there for the last 2 years or so, I think, maybe even longer, but I'm not sure. Anyway, Phil Bull, the National Secretary of the BSA Owners Club, arranges that, so I'll be helping him out on that stand. And I'll be there wearing the regalia, so if any of you are going, hopefully I'll meet up with you at some point, because I'll be there for most of the weekend, either setting up, tearing down, or helping on the stand. So that'll probably be the subject of the next video, prepping these two really, and just maybe making mention of what to expect at the show. Right, that's it then, and thanks everybody for watching. We'll leave it there. Thanks for subscription, likes, comments, etc. I enjoy the comments, and I will come back to those at some point, because there are one or two interesting ones recently which I'd like to bring to everybody's attention, because probably benefits us all. Cheers everybody, see you again soon. Bye bye.